Alright, what's up, Dragon Brood? We have a lot to cover on Final Fantasy because there is a crap ton of cards that have already been previewed. We're going to cover everything from what we'll call Day 0 up until the PAX East announcement. We will cover everything that got released there, and then we will talk about everything on officially Day 2. So we've got a lot to cover. I'm going to try not to spend too much time on too many cards. We're mostly going to go over the rares and mythics unless I see a really sweet uncommon to talk about. Otherwise, let's get to it. Alright, first up we have Emmett Selch Unsundered. It's a 1 blue and black for a 2/4 Vigilance. Elder Wizard. There's going to be a lot of legendary creatures in this set, so that's just going to be a common theme. Whenever it enters or attacks, you draw a card, then discard a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you can transform this card, and it turns into Hades, Sorcerer of Eld. It's a 6/6 Vigilance. During your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. If a card or token would be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. Overall, pretty solid. I mean, it's only 3 mana for a 2/4, which is good. It does have Vigilance, obviously, meaning you can attack and block with it. It does let you filter cards in your hand, which can be good for various types of things that trigger from discard right now. Stuff that's graveyard manipulation, obviously, like Reanimator, whatever. 14 cards is a lot, honestly, so you may not flip it that often, but there are some ways to do it. But yeah, overall, not a bad card. The 6/6 side, it does let you play cards from your graveyard, which is pretty sweet. So if you do flip to that side, could be pretty powerful. But yeah, fan of this one. It's actually pretty cool. We have Sin, Spirit's Punishment, 4 black, green, blue. So 7 mana for a 7/7 flying Leviathan avatar. When it enters or attacks, exile a permanent card from your graveyard at random. Then create a tapped token that's a copy of that card. If the exiled card is a land card, repeat this process. So this is actually kind of fun, because if you find a way to put a bunch of lands in your graveyard, then there's a chance you just like make a land, make a land, make a land, right? Which could be pretty big, but you do already have 7 mana at that point, so maybe it's not that beneficial. It is a flyer for 7, which is kind of unusual, but I mean, obviously it makes sense. But yeah, don't know how I feel about this. This feels like a solid Reanimator target, but the problem is we already have other good cards still in Standard, like Atraxa and Valgavoth and whatever, so I don't know how much play a card like this actually is going to see. Oh, so I guess I should have mentioned, like at this point, we're still going over a bunch of cards that are just Day 0 cards as it stands. So anyway, getting into Cecil, Dark Knight, it's a 1 mana, 2/3, Death Touch. Whenever it deals damage, you lose that much life. Then if your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, untap this and transform it, which is good because it becomes a 4/4 with lifelink, and then whenever it attacks, other attacking creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. So it's kind of an interesting card, right? Because you are losing life to set up the ability to be able to transform it, but once you've transformed it, you have a 4/4 lifelinker, which is pretty big, that gives everything else indestructible. So I do think this card will see some play. We already have a card, the Vehicle, that kind of wants you to lose your life to be able to turn it into something sizable. So there's probably a deck there somewhere that someone's going to figure out. But interesting card. We'll see how it ends, how much play it ends up seeing. Stillskin, Mogul Merchant. It's a 1 for a 1/2 with lifelink. You can pay 2 and tap it. Target opponent gains control of another target permanent you control. If they do, you draw a card. Obviously, this is another donate card, right? You want to have something with a downside that you end up giving to the opponent. I suspect this will see some play, if nothing else, in some quirkier commander decks. I don't know if it'll really fit in Standard. We already have some options for playing those style of decks, and they're already not that popular as it is. So a little on the fence. Plus, those tend to be red and black, not necessarily white. So while it's a cool card and flavorful, I don't know if it's going to be a thing that sees a lot of play. Jumbo Cactar, 7 for a 1/7. It's plant. Whenever this creature attacks, everything gets to become 1,000 power, basically. Like, awesome. Actually, I say that. This card itself gets that big power. So, I mean, it's 7 mana. Is this really going to get played? I don't know. Like, is there a world you could reanimate it, have a 1,000 power, 7 toughness trampler? Maybe. It's cute. I mean, you could fling it as well, so there's probably more value in that if you can get it on the battlefield. I will tell you, it's kind of fun if you're playing it in the Smuggler Surprise deck and copy that with Calamity. That's amusing. But outside of that, I don't know. It could have a couple of niche uses, but nothing I would hang my hat on. Of course, we're going to have a couple versions of Cloud, but there's Cloud Planet's Champion, 3 red white, so 5 mana for a 4/4 human soldier mercenary during your turn as long as Cloud is equipped. It has double strike and indestructible. Equipped abilities and you activate that target Cloud costs 2 less to activate. So nothing real surprising here. It's just a really good card for equipment decks. Makes your equipment cost cheaper, and it gets double strike and indestructible if it has equipment on it. Sephiroth, Planet's Heir, 4 blue-black. So 6 mana for a 4/4 human avatar soldier. It has vigilance. When it enters, creatures your opponents control get -2/-2 till their turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, put a +1/+1 counter on this card. I think this is fine, right? I mean, just being able to wipe out all your opponent's small creatures is always good. If the meta ends up being a bunch of, I don't know, let's say goblins, or it stays as an aggro token decks, this card obviously gains a lot more value. Outside of that, though, I don't know how often we're going to play this. I mean, a 4/4 vigilance creature, even with nothing else for 6, is okay. It's not great, but the benefit of being able to grow this over time, killing all your opponent's stuff, is pretty sweet. But I don't see this one getting a lot of play right off the bat. And we have Zeldinch. It's a 3 mana, so 2 in a red for an 0/3 human monk, also legendary. You may play an additional land on each of your turns. It gets +1/+0 for each land you control, and at the beginning of your end step, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Yeah, this card will get played in a variety of decks, right? If you have anything that cares about landfall, this obviously lets you trigger landfall every turn, multiple times in a turn. And the fact that it lets you pick up a land to replay it means you're always going to have something for landfall. So yeah, really cool card. I think this will find a home in quite a few decks, even if not just landfall decks. All right, we have a few more cards to wrap up day 0, but this is Xenos Galvus. It's a 5 mana 4/4, so 3 black. When it enters, choose a creature an opponent controls until end of turn. Other creatures, Xenos Galvus and the chosen creature get -2/-2. Oh, other than the chosen creature in this card get -2/-2. And then when the chosen creature leaves the battlefield, you transform this card. So let's say your opponent has, I don't know, 3 creatures. You choose one of them. The one you didn't choose, those get -2/-2. They die. And then if you have some way to kill the thing you did choose, you would get to transform this. And it turns into Shinru, Transcendent Rival. It's an 8/8 with flying. As this creature transforms into Shinru, choose an opponent. When the chosen player loses the game, you win the game. So, I mean, in one-on-one, it doesn't do a whole lot. However, in Commander, it becomes a very interesting thing, right? Because if you choose somebody, now people may not want to kill them, because that means you win now, so automatically. So they may not want to do that. So there's some fun political intrigue you can kind of create with this card in group games. But for standard play, it's a board sweeper for 5 of sorts. So, nah, I'm not too excited about it. I did want to shout out Tantoto, even though it's an uncommon. It's a colorless red-blue, so 3 mana for an 0/4 dwarf wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +X/+0 to end a turn, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. If X is 4 or more, you get to draw a card. So this is just a really interesting card. It fits into the bow more, play more spells, whatever type decks. And the ability to potentially every once in a while draw a card, also very cool. So yeah, neat card, works a bit different than other cards of this style, but I'm into it. We did have it revealed that there's a Dark Confidant in the set, so colors in a black for a 2/1. Human Wizard, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library, put that card in your hand, and you lose life equal to its mana value. This card is really good once upon a time, actually pretty much a staple in tons of decks. I don't know if this is where we want to be now, right? A 2 mana 2/1, fine. Getting the extra card, nice. But if you think about it, we've had the flying version of that with Offspring in the, what is it, the Augur, right? Out of Bloomburrow. But we don't even play with that often. Now, admittedly, that is 3 plus a potential Offspring versus being 2 mana. But I don't know. Maybe with this being back, we change how we're able to build decks because the life loss fits. I don't know. We'll see. Very interesting, though, to see this back in the set. Ishtola Rule, 6 mana, 3/5, Cat Druid. At the beginning of your end step, exile target creature you control, then return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Then, if it's the first end step of the turn, there is an additional end step after this step. So there's a lot going on with this card for 6 mana. First off, you actually get to exile a creature you control and have it enter the battlefield again. So you get that trigger, right? You get to bounce your own thing or whatever. But then you also have the second ability that's If it's the first end step, then there's additional end step. So if you have anything that triggers at the end of turn, whether that's draw a card, something like Shamil that like reveals till you get to a card, stuff like that will trigger again. And there are a few cards you could build around with that. Now, admittedly, it is 6 mana, so I think that's going to be the holdup on this card. But there's also some crazy stuff you could potentially do in Commander, which could keep this card kind of sought after. All right, and from here, we get to race through the cards from day one from PAX East preview, because there are a lot. So let's try to tackle them as fast as we can. A Realm Reborn. We have 6 mana enchantment, so it's 4 green. Other permanents you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Nothing too crazy here, just a quality card. If you have something that lets you tap and untap creatures, obviously this could be very good for that. But yeah, nothing crazy. I don't think we'll play a lot of this in Standard, unless you just need to turn your tokens into mana makers. But otherwise, it'll probably just be a fun card that's around that won't see a ton of play. Absolute Virtue, 6 white, blue, so 8 mana for an 8/8 Avatar Warrior. The spell can't be countered, has flying, you have protection from each of your opponents. Yeah, this is going to be one of those cards that we hate. Now, admittedly, we do have stuff around like the Breaker that makes your opponent sacrifice a card. You still have Shieldred's Edict, things like that, so that's kind of important. Actually, no, I don't even know. It's like target opponent, so you couldn't even target the opponent. But yeah, actually, I guess they could target. Yeah, that's weird. I'd have to look at how that works. You may not have very many options, to be honest. I don't know what we're going to do about this card. It's very weird. I guess technically it could be death touched. Well, you have protection. The card itself doesn't have protection. You can't be dealt damage, enchanted, or targeted by it. Okay, yeah, never mind. So it just still dies to regular removal. I read that wrong. Still a powerful card, though. It's going to be super annoying. And probably a good sideboard card against some decks. But we'll see. I don't know how much this will get played, but it is kind of a key card from the game. Aerith Gainsborough, 2 and a white for a 2/2 lifelink. When you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on this card. When this card dies, put a X +1/+1 counters on each legendary creature you control, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on Aerith Gainsborough. Couple of things going on here. There's a couple of decks that already care about gaining life and putting +1/+1s on stuff, so you could go with this. And those decks do often play a fair amount of legendary creatures already, right? Because you have Ellis Okor, you've got the other black-white one that lets you scry when you gain life. So it could fit into that type of build. I don't know if that's going to be a thing or not, but I think this will have some popularity just because people do like the life gain decks. I want to take a second to point out that some of these cards have like 4 or 5 versions in this set as well, so something to keep your eye out on. Arden the Usurper. It is 8 mana, 5 blacks for a 4/4 Elder Human Noble. Demons you control have Menace, Lifelink, and Haste. At the beginning of combat on your turn, exile up to 1 target creature from a graveyard. If you exile a card this way, create a token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 5/5 black demon. Yeah, this card's doing a lot. Now, 8, not the cheapest number, mind you. Right now, the mono black decks, even the ones that are demon heavy, tend to only play stuff that costs like 5. So not the best thing really to try to get into play, and it is only a 4/4. However, if you are playing enough demons, every demon having Menace, Lifelink, and Haste is pretty huge. And being able to turn random creatures in graveyards, I say random, like you're choosing, but any random creature in the graveyard, into a 5/5 is actually pretty powerful because it's a 5/5 that has Menace, Lifelink, and Haste. If you get into play, it's probably going to be really powerful. I could see this being a one-of in some of those decks, but that's probably about it. Balthier and Fran, 1 red-green for a 4/3 human rabbit with reach. It has vehicles you control get a +1/+1 and have vigilance and reach. Whenever a vehicle crewed by this card attacks, if it's the first combat phase this turn, you may pay 3, so a colorless red-green. I know it's not colorless, it's just a generic, blah blah. If you do, after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So yeah, I do like this card a lot, right? It's another card that can help rabbits, because we know that that deck's a thing. It's a card that has reach, which is really important right now in Standard. It also gives all your vehicles reach and a +1/+1 and haste, which is huge. So yeah, this is a kind of a sneaky card that's just in the set that actually might help vehicle decks quite a bit. A lot of them haven't really been playing red, but now you would have an excuse, and there are a few good red vehicles that people have kind of forgotten about. So yeah, I'm feeling this card. I think this could be a fun part of really just one deck in Standard, but it could be a key part of that deck. Bart's and Boko, 3 green green for a 4/3 human bird. Card also has affinity for birds, so it's cheaper for each bird you control. And when it enters, each other bird you control does damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. So you can have your birds fight something else, which is actually pretty cool. It's a 5 mana 4/3, doesn't have flying, but I don't know how important this is going to be, right? I don't see that many bird decks, and even when you do, they're either white or blue or some combination of them, right? It's not ever really green. So I think that's kind of my holdup on this. Like, where would you actually play it and what's the goal of it? So, yeah, I don't see this one seeing a lot of action, unfortunately. Just so I pointed out, there's a Sid for every version of the game. So there's a bunch of different artworks for this card. They just all happen to be the same. So Sid, Timeless Artificer, 2 white blue for a 4/4 human artificer. Artifacts, or actually artifact creatures and heroes you control, get +1/+1 for each artificer and each artificer card in your graveyard. A deck can have any number of cards named Sid, Timeless Artificer. So yeah, this is kind of a weird one. It does have cycling for blue and a white as well. So you have a 4 mana 4/4, which is actually fine. Artifact creatures and heroes. So, you obviously want to build around that. Get a +1/+1 for each artificer you control. So every Sid will give something else a bonus. Or if its Sid is in your graveyard, also give something a bonus. Yeah, neat. This will probably be a deck. Like, not necessarily a great one, but I think people are probably going to goof around with this in standard, and you'll probably see some of it on the ladder. If I wasn't, I mean, really, I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, I was going to say something else, but like, yeah, somebody's going to try this on the ladder before too long. Clive, Ifrit's Dominance. This is actually a card that I think people are going to be excited about, but it's a 6 mana 4 red for a 5/5 human noble warrior. When Clive enters, you may discard your hand, then draw cards equal to your devotion to red. And this is kind of interesting wording because I don't think we've had anything like this before. It's usually like discard and draw a certain number, or discard and draw the number you discard. This is very interesting because minimum, because of Clyde himself, you're going to discard and draw 2. If you have any other things with red pips on them, you might discard a card and draw, who knows, 5 or 6. Could be kind of sweet. And then you can pay 6, same as his cost, to exile it, return to the battlefield, transform under its owner's control, activated as a sorcery. It turns into Ifrit, the Warden of Inferno. It's a 9/9. Fights up to one other target creature, so when it enters, it gets to fight something as a 9/9. And then chapters 2 and 3, you add 4 red mana, and then if it has 3 or more lore counters on it, you exile it, return it to the battlefield. So then you kind of start the process over again. I don't know how excited I am about the backside. I mean, getting to fight something as a 9/9 is pretty big business. I don't know what I'm doing with the extra 4 mana at that stage of the game, but either way, it's kind of a cool card. Here's our second Cloud reveal so far. So Cloud, Midgard, Mercenary. It's a white, so 2 mana for a 2/1 human soldier mercenary. When it enters, search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. As long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or an equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. This card will be sought after. If you're playing an equipment deck, being able to just go get whatever equipment you want is pretty big business, right? You can, especially if you're playing like the toolboxy equipment, where maybe you want to get something with protection and or haste, or you want to get something that's protection from a certain color or whatever. This is going to allow you to do that with no problem. And then on top of that, let's say you have something like Sword of War and Peace, right? To deal damage. I think that's a deal damage, gain life sword or whatever. Like, you get each of those triggers again. So lots of stuff you're going to be able to do with this card. Definitely expect people are going to play with this one. The Crystal's Chosen, 5 white, so 7 mana for sorcery. Create 4 1/1 colorless hero creature tokens. Then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Honestly, I have no idea if this card's even playable, but 7 mana for 4 2/2s seems reasonable. And if you have anything else, they all also get a bonus. And then if you have stuff that obviously, if you add a counter, get a bonus counter, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I think this card will be played in some commander decks because there are a fair amount of +1/+1 counter commander things. I think there it does really big business, but I don't think it's going to see much play in standard. But it's a pretty sweet card. Summon Bahamut. Here's the other thing, too, about these cards. If you haven't seen a summon yet, summons basically work just like sagas, but they're creatures that sit around till the saga runs out, and then they're done. Kind of works just like in the game, where you would summon something to help you fight, and then it's like a spell that just goes away eventually. So it's kind of like that. But anyway, this is 9 mana for 9/9. Chapters 1 and 2, destroy up to 1 target non-land permanent. You just get to kill 2 things over 2 turns. Then on Chapter 3, you get to draw 2 cards. Chapter 4, this creature deals damage equal to the total mana value of other permanents you control to each opponent. So at least it's going to deal 9, because this card is 9, right? Beyond that, who knows? Depends on what else you have, right? If you have a couple artifacts, a couple enchantments, maybe you're dealing like 16 to the opponent. That's a crazy finisher on a card like this. Will it actually see play? I don't know. I will say this. There might be a way to trick this card onto the battlefield. And if you can, that is pretty huge, honestly. Like, it's an enchantment creature, so it does count as a creature if you're doing reanimatory things. So you get it out of the graveyard, it enters the battlefield, it kills something. 9/9's hard for them to deal with. It might block something. Then you also get to kill something else. This could see some play. It's kind of wild. Jill, Shiva's Dominant. 2 and a blue for a 2/2 human noble warrior. When it enters, return up to 1 other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. You could pay 3 blue, so 5 mana and tap it. Exile this card, return to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control, activate as a sorcery. Right, before we get to the backside, the front side is actually really good. Old school players, you might remember a card that was Mana War, right? 3 mana, 2/2, I believe, bounced a creature, returned to opponent's hand. However, Jill actually returns any other non-land permanent. There's a lot you could do with that. And then later on, being able to pay 5 and transform it into Shiva, Warden of Ice, a 4/5 creature. The first 2 chapters, I should say, 4/5 summon, I guess, is kind of what this is. It turns into a 4/5. The first 2 chapters, target creature can't block this turn, which is all right. And then chapter 3 is tap all lands your opponent controls, exile this, then return it to the battlefield tap. So you just shut down your opponent from being able to do anything for the rest of the turn, and you just do your business. And when it comes back, you again get to bounce something. So yeah, I don't know where this belongs, but I do think we're getting closer to a deck that's true mono blue tempo, where you're able to just keep bouncing all your opponent's stuff, because we have, I think, 3 different 1 mana spells that can just bounce your opponent's creatures or permanents, backed up with some counters. Like, that's probably going to be a deck. The Darkness Crystal, 2 black, legendary artifact, black spells cost 1 less to cast. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead and you gain 2 life. And you can pay 4 black, put target creature card exiled with this card onto the battlefield, tapped under your control with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. This might just be a fun, easy 1 of, maybe 2 of addition to mono black decks, right? Because at this point, now you're just killing your opponent's stuff, and then if they don't do anything during their end step, you're just like, all right, I'll pay 6. I get a copy of your thing with the +1/+1 on it. Nothing real complicated. It's just solid. Kane, Traitorous Dragoon. 2 and a black for a 2/4 human knight. During your turn, Kane has flying. Whenever Kane deals combat damage to a player, that player gains control of Kane. If they do, you draw that many cards, create that many tapped treasure tokens, then lose that much life. So you would pay 3 for a 2/4. When you go to attack, it does have flying. If it connects with your opponent, you lose 2 life, you make 2 treasure, you draw 2 cards. And then your opponent has control of it, and seemingly could do that to you the next turn. I don't know how I feel about this card, honestly. I don't know what deck it goes into or what deck wants it. Maybe some red-black deck that cares about treasure. I don't know. It's possible. Like, paired with Magda, you attack, you get some treasure. Maybe you have something else, so you're already up to 3 treasure because you killed something, and now you're just making a dragon, and the dragon just block Kane anyway. Something like that. But otherwise, I don't know how excited people are going to be about this. Another Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier. 2 and a black for a 3/3 human avatar soldier. Whenever this enters or attacks, you can sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw a card. Whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. If this is the 4th time this ability resolved this turn, transform Sephiroth. Now, I will say, it's probably not going to be that easy to transform this because you have to sack 4 things in a turn. But there are already decks that are black-white and black-red that want to sacrifice permanents. So this could fit very squarely into those decks. and give you a way to keep drawing cards, right? Because it triggers when it enters or attacks. And notice that it says whenever another creature dies, not when one of your creature dies, just when a creature on the battlefield dies, you drain the opponent for 1 life. So lots going on with just the front side of this, which makes the back side just straight up bonus, which is the One-Winged Angel. Shout out to Kenny Omega. But it's an Angel Nightmare Avatar, 5/5 flying. As this creature transforms, you get an emblem with whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. When it attacks, you can sacrifice any number of other creatures. If you do, you draw that many cards. So this basically makes the Sephiroth front side ability permanent, right? You get the emblem that just says you always have that. When a creature dies, you drain the opponent for 1 ability. And then you get to attack with the 5/5 flyer, and now you can sack any number of tokens or whatever you have to just make it crazy, because you get to drain your opponent while also drawing cards. So yeah, I don't even care if you never flip this card. I think the front side's going to get a lot of play as it is. Summon Primal Odin. 4 black, 5/3. Chapter 1 says destroy target creature and opponent controls. Chapter 2 says this creature gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. And Chapter 3 says draw 2 cards, each player loses 2 life. Yeah, so you get to kill something that potentially will be in the way, and then you get a chance to swing just to automatically win. If not, well, next turn you get to draw 2 cards, and everybody loses 2 life. This is neat. It does feel a little bit gimmicky for 6 mana. I don't know what deck would want this. Admittedly, we could see some new decks because of a lot of cards in the set, but I think as it stands, while this is cool and thematic and interesting, I don't think it's going to see that much play in Standard. But it is one that I would be pleasantly wrong about if it does end up becoming a mainstay. Zodiarch Umbral God. That is 5 black mana symbols for a 5/5 indestructible. When it enters, each player sacrifices half of the non-god creatures they control of their choice rounded down. And then whenever a player sacrifices another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on this. So if it shows up on turn 5, everybody has to get rid of half rounded down of their non-god creatures. And then each of those creatures that died puts a +1/+1 counter on this card. Yeah, I don't know. Like, Black has so many good cards that are already so versatile and so good. I don't know what we'd really do with this. I mean, it is indestructible, which is super nice. And you almost don't care about the black mana symbols in mono black. However, a lot of mono black decks are playing 3 to 5 colorless lands. So that could gum up the works on being able to cast this consistently. But it's fine. It's interesting. It's a neat card. I don't know how much play it's going to see, though. Furion, Wild Rose Warrior. 2 and a red for a 3/3. Is there one of these in every color? I just realized we've seen the blue, the black, the white, and the red. I don't think we've seen the green one, but a 3 mana 3/3. Anyway, it's a human rebel warrior. Equipped creatures you control have haste. Whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except it has this equipment's abilities, costs 2 less to activate. Sacrifice that token at the beginning of the next upkeep. So lots going on here. Obviously, this is going to be a card you want to play in the equipment decks, probably along the different versions of Cloud. A 3 mana 3/3 is solid. Equipped creatures you control have haste, so now every equipment gives something haste. And when you play a new equipment, it gets where the costs 2 less, which is awesome because you can just play a bunch of equipment that already costs 0, 1, or 2 to equip. And then this reduces the cost, and you get an equip. Basically, you get an equipment and an equip for free for every equipment you play at that point. So yeah, if the equipment decks become a thing, this could be one of the cards that's a main player in those decks. Gilgamesh, Master at Arms. 4 red for a 6/6 human samurai. Hey, if you're a Kamigawa fan looking for some samurai action, here you go. Whenever Gilgamesh enters or attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put any number of equipment cards from among them onto the battlefield, but the rest of the bottom of the library in a random order. When you put one or more equipment onto the battlefield this way, you may attach one of them to a samurai you control. So Gilgamesh comes into play, 6/6, looks at the top 6 cards of your library, any number of equipments, you can put them on the battlefield, and you pick one that gets equipped to Gilgamesh automatically. Obviously, if you have some of the other cards we've seen that care about equipment, you might get copies, they might get free bonus. Actually, with the other card we just talked about, let's say you find 3 equipment in your top 6, right? Those all enter the battlefield. You get to put one automatically on Gilgamesh, but then you'd get a copy of each of those other equipments that, if they cost 2 or less to equip, would equip for free. So now you just get to build up a big Voltron, and Gilgamesh would also have haste because of the other card we just talked about, right? So the parts are there that an equipment deck could be a thing, and we do have a couple of holdovers as well, so we'll see. Summoner's Grimoire. It's a 3 and a green for an equipment. Equipped creature is a shaman in addition to its other types, and has, whenever this creature attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. If that card is an enchantment card, it enters tapped and attacking. So this is a cool way to get summons, right? You're almost like reading from the grimoire to summon a thing if you wanted to do that. So that's kind of cool, especially since some of the summons are kind of expensive. That could be sort of a way to circumvent that. This does just work with any creature, though, which is also cool. Equip cost of 3, 4 mana equipment, so it's not like you're going to play a lot of these. Could it find its way into a deck or two? Possibly, but I wouldn't expect to see a lot of it in Standard, if any. The Traveling Chocobo. 2 and a green for a 3/2 bird. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can play lands and cast bird spells from the top of your library. If a land or bird you control entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. This card is definitely going to be sought after and played in a lot of different decks, right? Just being able to look at your top of your library and play lands and potentially cast birds, that's always going to be a thing that people like in Magic. So yeah, in Commander, possibly some older formats, like this card's actually going to be pretty sweet. One of a few Tifa Lockharts in the set, colorless in a green, or generic in a green. 2 for a 1/2 human monk trample. Whenever a land you control enters, double Tifa Lockhart's power till end of turn. This is interesting, like, if we're into playing landfall or whatever. Obviously not as good as the Hydra that we have, that when a land comes in, you put double the number of counters on it, right? But this isn't bad. Like, if you have anything that's already pumping this up, and then it doubles the power, it does have trample. So this could see some play, and if you're already playing the landfall deck, this is just a good addition to that. Kefka, Court Mage, 2 black, red. No, I read that wrong. 2 blue, black, red. There you go. I left the color out. It's a 4/5 human wizard. Whenever Kefka enters or attacks, each player discards a card. Then you draw a card for each card type among the cards discarded this way. So if somebody were to discard, like Fear of Missing Out, that counts for 2 different types. You can pay 8. Each opponent sacrifices a permanent of their choice, and then you transform this. You only activate it as a sorcery. Now, talking about the front side, everybody discards a card. You get to draw some number of cards. I'm assuming at least 2 in a lot of cases, but yeah, that's fine. You made your opponent's discard, and you got to draw some cards, and it's a 4/5. Now, then you only need 3 more mana from the cost it costs to cast it to turn it into Ruler of Ruin. 5/7 flyer. When an opponent loses life during your turn, you draw that many cards. Yeah, that's a pretty sick ability, right? You hit your opponent, even with just this, you hit them for 5, and then you draw 5 cards. It's going to be pretty hard not to win at that point. You know what I mean? Like, you're drawing enough things that they're going to have a lot to overcome. I just realized I'm talking a lot. I need to get a hydration drink sponsor. Kuja, Genome Sorcerer. 2 black, red. 3/4 human mutant wizard. At the beginning of your end step, create a tapped 0/1 black wizard creature token with, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent. Then if you control 4 or more wizards, transform Kuja. Turns into Trance Kuja, Fate Defied. If a wizard you control will deal damage to a permanent or a player, it deals double that damage instead. It's a 4/6 avatar wizard. Man, lots going on with this card. First off, you probably want to start digging into Scryfall to find the number of black and red wizards that are out there that you might want to play with, right? Because it doesn't say you need to have 4 0/1 wizards, you just need to have 4 wizards. So if you play a wizard on, let's say, 1, 2, and 3, and then you play this, on turn 4, you now control 4 wizards, and you would be able to transform it, which is kind of cool. And you'll also get the 0/1 black wizard, and then every wizard you have that deals damage now deals double damage, starting the next turn. So that's actually pretty cool. This card could see some play. I would just have to do some research and see how many wizards are playable in Standard to decide if this is even viable. Noctis, Prince of Lucius. 1 white, blue, black, 4/3, noble, human. Lifelink. You may cast artifact spells from your graveyard by paying 3 life in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that artifact enters with a finality counter on it. This is the type of card that always reads well, but usually don't make a big impact. However, I feel like if this does end up getting play, it's going to be some type of combo deck that's playing 0 and 1 mana artifacts from the graveyard to trigger some stuff on the battlefield type thing. But I wouldn't hang my hat on this being super popular as far as like a big card in Standard. Lightning, Army of One. 1 red, white for 3/2, human soldier. First strike, trample, lifelink. Whenever lightning deals combat damage to a player until your next turn, if a source would deal damage to a player or a permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead. So if you connect, you have a full turn cycle, because it's until your next turn. Everything that hits your opponent now deals double damage. It's a human, it's a soldier, does have first strike. This is kind of just a cool card by itself. A 3 mana, 3/2, first strike, trample, lifelink. Like, it can do some things. I don't know if I care about the double damage thing outright, but man, it feels like there's definitely some stuff you could do with this. Squall, Seed Mercenary. 2 white, black, so 4 mana for a 3/4. Human Knight Mercenary. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone and gains double strike on the turn, whenever Squall deals combat damage to a player, return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Again, there's a lot of decks that already want to do the sacrifice thing, you know, return stuff from the graveyard. There's a Lesha doing stuff. You do have to add red to do that, but not hard to do in current Standard. Something attacking with double strike is obviously a big threat for your opponent, so there's a chance this could see some play. Terra, Magical Adept. Red, green, 1. So 3 mana for 4/2, Human Wizard Warrior. When it enters, mill 5 cards. Put up to 1 enchantment card milled this way into your hand. You can pay 4 red, green, so 6 mana, tap this, then return to the battlefield transformed under its owner's control. So the front side, 3 mana, 4/2, you mill 5 things. If there's enchantment, you get to put it in your hand. That's okay. Not necessarily great unless you really need to do stuff with cards in the graveyard. But then you pay 6 and transform it, and we get Esper Terra, 6/6. Your first 3 chapters. Create a token that's a copy of target non-legendary enchantment you control. It gains haste. If it's a saga, put up to 3 lore counters on it. Sacrifice it at the beginning of your next end step. And then chapter 4 is add double Wooburg, so 2 white, 2 blue, 2 black, 2 red, 2 green. Exile this card, return it to the battlefield. I don't really know what we're doing with this. Like, obviously, you want an enchantment-heavy deck. You get to copy all the enchantments. You sacrifice it, though, the copy at the beginning of your next end step. Someone's going to figure out something silly to do with this. I just don't see what it is right off the top of my head. But there's going to be something we could do with it. We have a new card, a land called Towns is what it is. So Xanarkin, Ancient Metropolis, is a town that also has an adventure for 6. So 4 green, green. Create a 1/1 colorless hero creature token. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each land you control. So assuming your adventure was paid for with just lands, you would be able to make a 7/7, a 1/1 with 6 counters on it, by playing that adventure. And then whenever you play this later as just a land, this land enters tapped, but then you can tap it for a green mana. What I like about it is even if you need it early in the game, it just taps for a green mana, right? But you get the adventure as a bonus later in the game if you don't need your land immediately. This will definitely see some play. I wouldn't be surprised as if the others are similar quality, if these become mainstay one-ofs at a minimum in a lot of different decks. And in some cases, maybe even 2-ofs or possibly 3-ofs in some decks. So yeah, these could be really sought after at the end of everything, but we'll see what the others are like. Vivi Ornithir, 1 blue, red, 0/3, wizard. You can pay 0, which is always a concern when you see pay 0 on something. Add X mana and any combination of blue or red where X is this card's power. Activate only during your turn and only once each turn. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this card, and it deals 1 to each opponent. So again, if you're doing the spell-heavy deck, there's a reality that you can play this, play 2 different non-creature spells. It's a 2/3, you dealt 2 damage. Actually, it'd be a 2/5. And then you could pay 0 to now get 2 mana, combination red or blue, and then play something else. So there probably are some worlds where this card ends up being really strong. It's a neat card. It's also a wizard, if that's important. Yuna, Hope of Spira. 3 green, white, so 5 mana for a 3/5. During your turn, Yuna and enchantment creatures you control have Trample, Lifelink, and Ward 2, which is awesome if you're playing enchantment creatures, right? Having everything have Trample, Lifelink, and Ward, great. At the beginning of your end step, return up to 1 target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. And this is where this can get a little bit scary, right? It's like a slow-mo reanimator for an enchantment. That does mean the summons that are enchantment creatures would also qualify, or any creatures that happen to be enchantment creatures in general. So lots of cool stuff you're probably going to be able to do with this, and I would not be surprised if this becomes part of an actual deck. Vanille, Cheerful, Icy. I don't know. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. I don't remember this character. But 3 and a green. So 4 for a 3/2 human cleric. Whenever this enters, you mill 2 cards. Then return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. At the beginning of your first main phase, if you both own and control this card and a card named Fang, Fearless, Icy, whatever, you may pay 3 black green, so 5 mana. If you do, exile them and then meld the 2 cards. Okay, couple of things happening here first off that we got to talk about. 4 mana 3/2 that actually mills and returns a permanent from your graveyard. That's pretty big because a lot of cards usually say either return a certain type of permanent or return a card from the stuff you milled. This just lets you return any permanent. And anybody that's played stuff like Insidious Roots, you get a little bit down when you've milled a bunch of stuff and Insidious Roots is sitting in your graveyard because you just milled it, right? This will let you get it back, which is actually pretty sweet. So I'm sort of into that. Almost don't care. The melding becomes a bonus. And just to follow up, Fang, Fearless Icy, I'm going to call it that because I don't know. 2 and a black, so 3 mana, 2/3, Human Warrior. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, you draw a card and lose 1 life. This ability triggers only once each turn. Again, a card that fits perfectly in those Insidious Roots type decks, right? You just lose a life, draw a card. So you just keep your hand full to be able to do stuff. However, they do meld into Ragnarok. I'm going to read this. It is sideways, but I'm trying to edit these quickly instead of show the full meld card. Maybe I'll remember to get it into the edit. But it is a legendary creature, Beast Avatar. It is a 7/6. It has Vigilance, Menace, Trample, Reach, Haste. When it dies, destroy target permanent and return target non-legendary permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it gets to destroy something and return something when it dies. And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 abilities, one of which is Haste, which is crazy. Yeah, both cards are uncommon. Could be really cool to do this. Somebody's going to try to build around it and do it once. What I like about it is you could just play a good graveyard manipulation deck, play like 2 copies of each, and maybe sometimes you get lucky and get Ragnarok. If not, you're just getting good abilities from both cards. Here's one of the other towns. It's Jador, Aristocratic Capital. You have an adventure that also costs 6. Target opponent mills half their library rounded down. Why do we keep making cards with silly words like this? But that being said, if you do like mill decks, hey, your opponent just mills half their deck. With the land you can just play anyway. It does enter tapped, tap for a blue, but yeah, I mean, it's a thing. It's going to exist. People that like playing mill decks, you can now play 4 things that just let your opponent mill for half. I don't know what else to say about it. Sure. Oh yeah, randomly, they do have a golden chocobo, because you kind of have to have a golden chocobo. So yeah, if you find this thing, it's going to be worth a bunch, because there's only 77 of them, and they're serialized. Congrats. Oh yeah, if you want to see the Ragnarok that melds, here you go. They already loaded an image that I can use. So there you go. It's the 7/6 that the 2 cards turn into. Just putting it on screen to make it easier for people to see. Starting Town. This card enters tapped unless it's your first, second, or third turn of the game. You tap for a colorless, or you can tap and pay 1 life, add 1 mana of any color. Oh my god. Yeah. This card is good. Really good, actually. Wow. I don't know. I'm at a loss here, but this card could end up being very expensive. You're talking about a fast land or a pain land, effectively, on the first 3 turns that gives you any color. And later in the game, fine, it just comes into play tap, but it's a mana you can still get any color from. Wow, the 3-color aggro decks and stuff, or maybe even 4-color aggro decks, but definitely more than 2, could definitely... I mean, I say that, but even 2-color aggro decks might want this. Just more lands that don't come into play tapped on turn 1. Yeah, ooh. There's a chance this could be expensive, y'all. Okay, now this brings us to officially day 2 of previews. So, Esper Origins, 1 and a green. It's a sorcery. You surveil 2, you gain 2 life. If the spell was cast from a graveyard, you exile it, then put it onto the battlefield, transform under its owner's control with a finality counter on it. It has flashback of 3 and a green. So, front side, you surveil 2, you gain 2 life. Again, maybe something that goes into one of these graveyard manipulation decks. But then if you flashback to play it from the graveyard, or technically play it with anything else, you get a 4/4. That is a summon, which is cool. So first chapter, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, put it into your hand. Chapter 2, you add 2 green, and then just take your turn. Chapter 3, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain trample until end of turn. Yeah, I'm kind of into this, right? If you want the surveil, gain life options, then later on, you're just like, okay, I get a 4/4 on loan for like 3 turns, but then I also get possibly another card in hand. I also get 2 mana, which could give me a big turn. And then, if nothing else, I get +2/+2 and trample for a bit. So yeah, this could end up being a card that replaces some other options in the Insidious Roots decks, but we'll see. Ishgard, the Holy Sea. It is also a town and costs... Oh, the adventure, I thought they were all going to cost 6. This one only costs 5. 3 white. Return up to 2 target artifact and or enchantment cards from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, so this isn't as good as the other 2. Like, one that just mills outright for half your opponent's library, the other that makes you a 7/7. This is returning 2 things, but it is a little slow, right? It comes into play taps for a white. Still playable. And I think it goes into a few different decks, but it can only return artifacts or enchantments. So it's only going to go into very specific decks as a copy or 2, whereas I think the green one for sure can live in a bunch of decks that care about creatures. The blue one, probably into a handful of decks. This one, we'll have to see. Matoya, Archon Elder. 2 and a blue for a 1/4 human warlock. When you scry or surveil, you draw a card. I got no problem with this. Like, it's not flashy, but it's just real good at doing what it does, you know? It'll probably find a home in a couple of places. I saw this card just briefly. I want to give it a shout out, but the white Auracite, 2 white artifact. When this artifact enters, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this artifact leaves the battlefield. Taps for a white mana. Now, we've had versions of this card, obviously, almost every set or every other set. But white card enters the battlefield, exiles something until it goes away. The interesting thing here is that this also taps for white mana. I don't think we've had any others that tap for mana. We've had some that have activated abilities. We have some you could sacrifice for something. We have some you can tap and put counters on things. But this is the first time we have one that taps for mana, and that makes it a little more interesting. It is 4 mana, though, and that could be tough. Astrologian's Planisphere. 1 and a blue for an equipment. Equipped creature is a wizard in addition to its other types, and has, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, and whenever you draw your 3rd card each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Equips for 2. It's interesting. I just don't know if the play extra spells, draw cards, whatever deck want an equipment. We'll have to see. 1 or 2 might be able to sneak into those decks, but I'm thinking not more often than it will. Couple of more cards. Quick shout outs here to Barrett Wallace. 3 and a red for a 4/4 human rebel with reach. Whenever it attacks, deal damage equal to the number of equipped creatures you control to defending player. So oftentimes, if the decks work like they seem like they're going to, you're going to get to attack and deal like 3 to the opponent or something just outright, which is kind of cool. Don't know if that's going to be playable, but it's a neat idea. And then Laughing Mad, worth paying attention to because these types of cards that, discard, draw are always important. But this one, you pay 3, it's an instant, discard 1, draw 2, and then it has flashback. And the flashback is really what makes this card important because we have a bunch of different things that cost 2 or 3 and then you discard and draw. But being able to do this during your opponent's end step, when you have mana up to just dig for more cards, and then also being able to do it as flashback, pretty cool. A neat variation on the style, like ability. But all right, that was a lot. We ran through so many cards. We're going to try to do these every day, so be sure to follow, subscribe, all that good stuff if you want to see the future cards. I want to know, though, like, for those of you that are Final Fantasy fans, one, how does this feel so far, right? Does it feel like they're capturing the essence of the characters and things that you want? And two, is something that you've been looking for already been previewed or not? Or is there something you're wishing for? And 3, so far, what's the sweetest card for you? Because there's like probably 8 or 10 things I could pick right now that were awesome. But as always, remember to like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Be sure to become a channel member if you want. Otherwise, just watching the video. I appreciate it. That's all I have for you for now. We'll see you next time.